Hello and welcome to the Cube Talk Show. My name is Joe Barbieri, I'm your host, and this is a show about money, how we interact with money, and we cover many different areas of money. Today's guest is Shawn Mintz, president of Mentor City, and mentors are very important when it comes to money. So Shawn, how are you doing?
I'm really good. I'm really excited to be here. And Joe and I were just talking about mentors and the impact that they've made in his life, but also mine. So I'm really excited to be sharing that with everyone today.
Very good. So off the top, describe your background and your company and what you do.
Yeah. So I've been in the career and employment services sector for over 10 years. I started off as a career counselor, and I was able to create a whole marketing company, a whole marketing department for the company that I worked for. And I basically did that by tapping into the knowledge and expertise of mentors. So when I was trying to learn about press releases, I would talk to a public relations person. Or if I was trying to learn how to be a good public speaker, I talked to a public speaker. So mentors have meant everything to me throughout my career. So in my career in employment, I developed a lot of innovative mentoring practices that have helped thousands of people. And this is my latest innovation. It's called Mentor City. It's an online mentor matching website or solution that helps connect people to mentors, and then it guides them through the entire mentoring process.
If somebody were to come to you who you haven't met before and they'd say, I'd like a mentor for doing X, how do you go about it?
Yeah, so if somebody comes and they said, okay, I want a mentor, they could actually search on the site to find a mentor. So I'm actually going to take you through that a little bit, take you on a little bit of a tour of Mentor City and show you how it works. So I'm just going to sign in here. What I've done with this website is I've brought it down to 8 simple steps. So it's really easy for anyone to find a mentor on the site and to be a mentor on the site. So the first step to using Mentor City is to complete your profile. After that, you could search for a mentor. You invite him or her to a 15-minute initial conversation. And that initial conversation is just to see if there's good chemistry between you and the mentor. After that, you both complete an initial evaluation. And in that initial evaluation, you decide if you want to create a formal relationship. And if it's a formal relationship, so that means it's a structured relationship. And if you decide that, then the system will take you through an actual mentoring agreement that you could both talk about and submit on the site. Or you could also decide on an informal relationship. And what an informal relationship is when you reach out to a mentor on an as-needed basis. So if you have a question about marketing, you could call up Jim and they could provide you with some answers or some insights about that question. After you've done the relationship, you complete a final evaluation, and you also, how the site works, is that you also receive invitations to become a mentor throughout the whole process. So the site is really neat because it's set up based on my 10 years of mentoring. It's set up with all the best practices that I've learned over the years. So it's set up for reverse mentoring. So that means like a very senior person talking to someone younger about something that younger person's an expert in, like social media. It's also set up for peer-to-peer mentoring. So say you just joined a company and you want to talk to somebody that's been in the company for a few years, you can find them on the site. And it's set up for the traditional type of mentoring, which is a junior person talking to a very senior person about their expertise.
Okay. So yeah.
So I'll keep going a little bit. So the first thing to do is build your profile, and this is important for both the mentors and the mentees, and I'll show you how it works. So to make it really easy, you could easily import your LinkedIn profile. So it brings in everything within a couple seconds. But what makes this a mentoring profile is your gender, because you could do gender-specific mentoring. Your languages, so if I feel more comfortable communicating in Spanish, I could say that I want to talk in Spanish for my mentoring. The 3 words that describe you helps the mentee decide if you're the right mentor for them. And then the mentee matches, that's very neat. So the whole philosophy is whether you've just recently graduated from university or you've recently retired, everybody has something valuable to share. So it's about how many mentees can you take on at once. So if I write one, once I have one mentee, I don't show up in search results anymore. So you could play with that number depending on how busy you are, and then you don't feel like so many people are asking you to be their mentor. So it's a way to control how many people reach out to you. The meeting formats is in-person, live text chat, over the phone, video conferencing. So the matches also work based on that. And the meeting locations are the cities that you're able to meet in person in. So I'll just show you a couple other cool things about the profile. Professional profile is from LinkedIn, so it's your specialized skills, your summary, associations that you belong to, so other things that the mentee could decide if you're the right mentor for. Employment, what's unique about employment is that it's industry focused. So say I worked in aeroplastics or as in the investment field 15 years ago, I still would show up in search results because I have a lot of those industry expertise. The other neat thing about the site is the soft skills section. So these are all leadership attributes. So how good am I at teamwork skills, at networking, my presentation skills? Then what the site does is it matches weaknesses to strengths. And that's part of the way that it recommends people that would be a good mentor for you.
So if you don't have LinkedIn, is there another way to put all the information in, or is...
Yeah, definitely. Like if you don't have LinkedIn, you could just fill in the information and just save the profile.
Okay. So just like a manual fill in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you could just type in your name, your job titles, your company, all that information.
Okay.
So I'm going to show you how to find a mentor on the site. So you could click on Find a Mentor. And what this is a mentoring request. So this gives the mentee, or gives you a really good chance to think about who is it that you like to be your mentor. So what is my objective? So for finance, maybe I'd like to learn about investing, or how to be a good investor, how to budget on a daily basis so that I'm more successful. For me, I filled out leadership capabilities. So that's my objective. The summary is the type of person that I'm looking for to be my mentor. My goals is to develop my self-confidence, to become a stronger public speaker. So you can keep adding goals, and then these goals go into the invitation for the mentor, but they also go into your mentoring relationship page. So once you achieve a goal, you kind of check them off.
Okay.
You click next. And this is the criteria that I'd like my mentor to have. So how much experience must they have or should they have? So right now I'm saying that they must have 10 years of experience. Is it important what industry they're in? If so, then you say they must be or they should be in a specific industry. The job function, so I'm looking for an engineer. If gender is important, you could click it on or off. I'll take it off for now. Language and the meeting location. You click Save and Search, and the site's going to come up with a list of mentors that could possibly help me. So when you see this list, you'll see M's at the top. And those are related to how compatible I am with that mentor.
Okay. So like 1M is not that many, and 5 is
exactly
the best fit you can have. It's that sort of scale. Okay.
And then it's just taking a second to load up, but you can take a look through everybody's profile and figure out, let's see, just try that one more time.
So you would get a list of people who fit all the descriptions that you put in.
Yeah.
And then after that, you would talk to them. You'd interview them.
Yeah.
To see if they have the chemistry and the intangibles, I guess, that aren't covered
Yeah, so that's what that, so you'd kind of like look through everybody's profile, you see who's a good fit, and then you'd invite them to that 15-minute conversation. So that invitation is just like it's a real honor to actually be asked to be somebody's mentor. So you'd write why you'd really like them to be your mentor, and then you'd submit that, and then the mentor can accept or decline you based on your message to them, your mentoring request, and your profile. So they might, and if they decline you, that's okay, because the mentor may feel that they're not the right mentor for you.
Yeah.
So here's those M's that I was talking about. Here's Paul Aitken's profile, and basically I could send him an invite and then wait to see to schedule that 15-minute conversation.
Okay. So for a mentor who wants a mentee, it's the same process, or is it different?
Yeah, basically how the site is, it's very comprehensive. It's mentee empowered. So that means it's always the mentees that are searching for a mentor based on what's happening in your life. So the cool thing about mentoring is that you receive customized feedback from a mentor based on what's happening in your life. And that's why it's even more effective than attending a workshop or something else, because you're actually talking to the person about a specific example, and they're giving you real feedback based on their experience and what they've gone through, and providing tips and suggestions. So it's very empowering to have a mentor, and I definitely like, if you're looking for a mentor, definitely go on the site to find one, or there's other ways to search for a mentor. And some of them are just really thinking about who is that mentor that you'd like to have in your life. Maybe thinking about what kind of personality they'd be, do they work in a specific company, just brainstorming all the potential mentors, and then figuring out a way to approach them. So it might be through your network, it might, so the people that you know, your friends and family, it might be social media, so you might search them on a social media site, and then really ask them for a few minutes of their time to, follow up with them. What Mentor City does is it actually guides you through the whole process. So what you'll see is when you go on the site, it'll tell you how to have that initial 15-minute interaction as the mentor and the mentee. So how can it be very successful? And then it'll talk about how to have a formal relationship and informal. So you get the content as you move on in the process.
Okay.
So these are my relationships. So this is my relationship page. So this is like a mentoring diary that you keep with you your whole career. And you could always look back at what's happened with a mentor, what's happened with a mentee. So I have 6 mentors. I have 8 mentees. And I'll just show you somebody that reached out to me on the public site. His name is Hitash. And this is how the relationship page looks. So his objective is he'd like to establish a training institute. These are the stages of the relationship that we're in. So we sent the initial invitation, we had the interaction, and we established a relationship. And then the site guides you on the next steps. So we've established a formal relationship, read about formal relationships, and when you're done, complete the final evaluation. There's my goals. And the send message feature it tracks everything that's happened in the relationship. Here's who's involved with the relationship, the mentor and the mentee, and then here's all my documents. So the mentee's requests, the tips, the formal relationships, the evaluations. So it's all there in a comprehensive package.
So this stays there for indefinite time. You can always go back and review.
Yeah. So you could always, like, even if you complete a relationship, so you've kind of filled out that final evaluation, and you and the mentor both said that, okay, we've gained everything that we need to gain from this relationship, or the time has come up, then you could come back on this relationship page 2 or 3 years down the road and just see what happened. See what you actually learned, what you gained from that relationship, how empowering it was. And if you want, you can reach out to them through the site, through the send message feature, and ask them questions on an ongoing basis. So you're establishing the relationships and going through the relationship on Mentor City, but you're also continuing that relationship.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's a quick tour, and just wanted to give you a quick sense of how the site works.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess in more general terms now, I think you've probably alluded to this, but how impactful are the programs? Do you have an idea how many people use the site and what the feedback has been in terms of, like, 80% of people really loved it, or 80% of people come back, or?
Yeah, it's a new and exciting community. It's a growing community as well. So there's a few hundred people on the site. They're using it. I know this past weekend, one person from a company that I'm talking to met with 2 mentees through the site. And from my understanding, the relationships were a great success. So now they're probably going through that initial evaluation process to figure out, both of them, do they want the formal relationship, do they want the informal relationship? The site kind of takes away any kind of awkwardness. So if you say, Joe, that you want a formal relationship, and I say that I want an informal relationship, it automatically becomes informal. Or if you think that the 15 minutes was enough, and I want an informal relationship, it becomes completed. So, and then it's all communicated through emails to the other person. So it's kind of a neat system that that kind of guides you through the process. So I'm looking forward to talking to the person from that company about her mentoring 2 people, and just hearing the impact. From what I understand, there was a great conversation that happened.
Okay. Does it matter how many mentors you have, or
no?
There isn't any limit on, or is there a limit on how many at a time you can have?
Well, right now, how the site's set up is that it has the flexibility to establish as many mentoring relationships as you'd like. So if you say you have like 3 goals, like one's budgeting money, one's time management skills, one's leadership development. So you might have 3 separate mentors for each of those goals, and you can reach out to them all through the site.
Okay.
And same with accepting. When you start to get really engaged, you'll probably receive invitations to become a mentor, and you could have as many mentees as you could take on as once as well.
So this is a very long process in terms of, well, not the site process, but the whole idea of wanting to do something, getting the mentor, actually going through their experience and then doing it, and then following up on, and then the next stage. So have you ever had any issues with people who say they get advice and they don't do it, or they get advice but the timing of it is not ideal, so there's a delay? Or is there a lot of interactions like that where people will start a program and get halfway through and say, well, I've had a personal issue and I have to put it on hold and then I'll come back, or I started a business but my money ran out or whatever and I have to rearrange my goals, and then so is there a way of pausing the process and then restarting?
Yeah, you could definitely communicate with your mentor about if life's getting really busy and you need to pause it. If you're the mentor or the mentee, then definitely have that discussion. You could readjust the mentoring agreement to reflect what's going on in your life. But the other important thing is that sometimes relationships just kind of fizzle out. And so what I talk and write a lot about is how to keep that relationship going. And it's all about the mentee kind of like following up with the mentor, because they're the ones that are helping you achieve greater success. So it's about making sure that you stay engaged with the relationship and you keep the mentor engaged as well. So some of the ways you could do that is just like if the mentor gives you advice about something specific, you could let the mentor know, how did that go when you started to integrate that advice into their life? Because then the mentor really sees that they're having an impact on your life. You're actually listening to what they're saying and you're applying some of those things. So that's really neat. Always write thank you notes to the mentor after a conversation or something that you gained. So it's about creating this dialogue that goes back and forth so that the mentor really feels rewarded for what they're doing. Because a lot of mentors go on the site and they want to. There's like lots of people on the site that want a mentor but the mentee just make sure that you keep it going, keep it alive. Another interesting point that we talked about is how to actually integrate the advice and what advice is good advice, and should I do all the advice that I'm getting, or maybe I shouldn't do some. And so what I recommend is that you, after a mentoring interaction, you write down all the advice and you rate it on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being not that great advice and 5 being really great advice. For me, I received this advice from one of my mentors, and I was so excited about it. I was ready to implement it and everything. And I would have rated that as a 5 because I was like, yes, this makes a lot of sense. But I talked to some people. I actually talked to my mom, who is like a mentor to me and a very special person. And she told me to not do it, not do it, and that it could have an impact on my career. But my excitement got the best of me, and it was one of the biggest career mistakes that I made. So if you get advice, rate it. You may want to talk about people. Like if anything in your intuition is telling you that this advice might not be good advice, or any question marks come up in your mind, then talk to some people that you feel that you trust and get their opinions, and then really listen to their opinions. In the end, it's your decision if you're going to do the advice or not. A lot of it's about learning, right? So even the biggest mistakes become the best lessons in life to really take with you. So it's like, if you make those mistakes, okay, what did I gain from that mistake? How can I use that mistake to become better and not do the same thing over again? And then once you figure out the advice that you want to integrate, what I do is I put it in my calendar for like 21 days. So if I'm going to my workplace, and one of the things that I wanted to change at one point is just to be really positive and walk in the door and smile. So in my calendar for 21 days, I had smile when I get to work and say, good morning, how are you? So just to create a good aura and to be more positive about what I'm doing and passionate about what I'm doing and the people that I'm working with. So really think about, how can you integrate that advice? What strategy are you going to use to be the best that you can be? And then don't stop there, keep going. So what are some of the other things that you could start to integrate into your life? So you're already working on this piece of advice, but keep going, keep thinking of other things to integrate. Because that, I think for me, when I keep looking at different things, I feel more productive, I feel better about myself, and I feel that I'm moving in the right direction.
Okay. We're going to take a break for about 5 minutes, and we'll continue on some of those themes. So we'll be right back. And we're back on the Cube Talk Show with Shawn Mintz, and we're talking about mentoring, and we've gone through the Mentor City process. So I just want to get into some more of the details on what can happen in a situation. Do you have a typical customer that would come to your site? Is there a kind of person that you notice you'll get a lot more of this type of person than another?
It's been a real mix so far. Like I've had a big cross-section of very senior people that want to be mentors, to people that are just trying to figure out what law school to go to. There's been some interesting things happening on the site. Somebody even for looking for personal mentoring, so really in terms of self-confidence and awareness and things like that, she connected to a mentor. Mentees that are looking to start their small business or take their business to the next level. So there's a real cross-section of people that are coming on the site and the goals that they're looking to achieve, and who they want to get connected to as a mentor through Mentor City. So it really ranges. It's something it's for everyone. I think everybody needs a mentor throughout their life. Even the more senior, like the most senior executive working at a company still needs a mentor to really look at new innovations, new ideas. What could they be doing to take that company to the next level? So I'm looking at even helping senior executives get connected to mentors. So mentoring, I know I have a stat right here. it's 75% of executives point to mentoring as playing a key role in their careers. So that's how much people, like if you ask anybody, who is your mentor, most people would think about one person and really talk about what did they like about that mentor, how did that mentor take them to the next level in their career. So I think mentoring is the best way to learn and grow and develop yourself and your skills. And even on the other side of the table, when you're a mentor, you're still growing. Like, it's a very safe place to practice your communication skills, practice your leadership skills, practice your mentoring skills. That's going to also help you in your workplace. So I have some other interesting stats that are on the site, and please take a look at the site that talk about how being a mentor has helped people progress in their career, and how they raised up the corporate ladder and how their salaries grew and all that stuff from being a mentor.
And this is for individuals, or do you have companies that subscribe to this site as well?
Yeah, so there's the site for individuals, which is the public site that we looked at today. But then what I'm really passionate about as well is creating these mentoring communities.
Okay.
So a private label mentoring community for a company. So this would be like a company's website. It would be their logo, their brand, their colors, their look. And it would just be for their employees to join the mentoring community. So everybody within that community works there. And they're getting connected to one another to help each other grow within that company. So for a company to establish a mentoring program, they're investing in their talent. They're helping to develop their leaders. A lot of companies I'm talking to, it's about succession planning. I met with one company last week, and they said 50% of our workforce will be retiring within the next 4 to 5 years. So we need to really look at that talent, look at and pass along that knowledge to the next generation. So what better way than mentoring? Because you have this wealth of experience, this wealth of knowledge about the company, their culture, the ways of doing things, how to be successful at the company, and so much more. So really tapping into the people that are going to be retiring and getting them to share. And then think about how they could do that effectively, even create as a company, maybe build in some kind of incentive base so that the retiring people really feel a part of it and excited about it. So there's like a lot of excitement. There's so many things that mentoring can do for organizations. Another stat that I wanted to share is more than 60% of college and graduate students listed mentoring as a criteria for selecting an employer after graduation. So your next generation of workforce is also looking for companies that have those mentoring programs established.
Okay, yeah, that's very true. They used to call it apprenticeships, and we used to work under a master tradesperson or a master professional, and then they'd share their experience.
Yeah.
And then you became licensed. So it looks like we're coming back. I mean, it's not the same kind of license, but it's
the same kind of feel. Like apprentices, it's true. Like you'd go to become a electrician, you'd learn from that tradesperson, so that's like a huge area as well. But then for mentoring as well, think about the same thing that you're talking about, the apprentice. Now think about the things that you do in the workplace and how you could get feedback from people in regards to that. So say you're leading a team meeting and your mentor is sitting beside you. And then after that team meeting that you led or you chaired, that mentor could give you real-time feedback about what you did, how you could do better. Or say you're preparing for an interview, you can get feedback from your mentor on how to succeed at that interview. So what I'm really excited about is, as part of your mentoring relationship, really think of activities that you can do with your mentor so that you can get feedback on your performance. Because that's key to helping you achieve better results. Is actually someone that they're not your direct supervisor, they're your mentor, so you could be very comfortable with them, and they could give real honest feedback to you.
So that leads me to the next question I had. Well, how to keep it going, and what if you find it doesn't? What if you find the relationship isn't going as well? Now, you mentioned earlier about it fizzling out, so you need to communicate more frequently, and the chemistry is addressed in terms of some of the screening. But what if you get somebody who really doesn't match in terms of the personality or the method? And that this will happen with any kind of relationship. But what would you say to somebody who says, I'm having this problem? What's the best way to deal with it?
Yeah, it's a tough question, because you don't want to necessarily break up. I know, like when I came up with this idea, it was about, I was writing a book about mentoring, and I was like, how do I turn this book into a business? And I thought about online dating, and then I said, oh, there's no real online mentoring sites, and that's where it all started. So relationships and mentoring, they're very similar. So it is getting into a relationship that you need to nurture and watch, and not all relationships work. So it's thinking about really evaluating that relationship, and if you really see it not working, then talk to the mentor about it. Really have a discussion, because I think it's more important to communicate with the mentor, to thank them, and to move on in a nice way, instead of just stopping the relationship, stopping communicating, not responding to emails, all those things. So to really make sure that you end the relationship in a good way, because that mentor might be in a position to hire you down the road. They might be a reference for you. They might be an important decision maker for the company that you want to join. So it's always about that long-term networking, and the relationships that you build and how you disengage in them. That's important to keep in mind. So the other thing I was thinking about is, like, some mentors, there might not be chemistry, and they might be the total opposite of you, right? And they might be just but sometimes that might be a good thing. Sometimes you need that straightforward talk, even from someone you don't get along with totally, but you know that you could benefit from them, because they are opposites, and their opinions are going to help contribute to something. So think about that too when you're deciding, should I continue this relationship or shouldn't I continue this relationship? Because it might be someone you don't have chemistry with, but you might learn a lot from them.
It's how do they say it? It's not what you want, but it's what you need.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't feel good, it might still be good.
Yeah.
But it still depends. And so a related question is about the advice. Now, again, you mentioned in the first half that you had an experience where you got advice and you talked to other people and they said, well, I'm not sure if you should do that or not. And it turned out it wasn't the best thing. Well, maybe it was, because you learned from it.
Yeah.
But if you get into that type of scenario where you're always getting advice, how do you know that you should take it? Because sometimes you shouldn't take it, or so you sort of answered it before, but to go further into it, how would you deal with that?
I think the most important thing is to really trust your intuition and believe in your intuition. And if there's any kind of question mark that you have about a piece of advice, then explore that advice with other people. Because usually you're right. Usually your intuition is right about what you should do or you shouldn't do. So listen to all those voices in your head about, oh, that's really good advice. Oh, that's really good advice, but what if this happens? So asking yourself all the what ifs. And if there's what ifs and you can't figure it on your own, then talk to somebody else. Like my example, I talked to my mom, so really figure out who to talk to about it. I just had another example I was thinking about something that transformed me. I was in a university class, and I had a really bad day, and the professor saw that, and he said, Shawn, he asked me a question, and I didn't really know why he was asking me that question. I was kind of daydreaming, and he said to me, stay focused. And since that comment, those two words that professor told me, it's changed my whole life, because now I try to focus on everything and give it 100%. So if I'm having dinner, I'm only having dinner with my kids and my family. If I'm working on a task, I'm only working on that task. So I try not to let all the Blackberries and smartphones and iPhones and iPads get in my way, and I try to just focus and give 110% attention to anything that I'm working on. And I think that's like the most important thing that you could bring to your life. So even when we're chatting, it's like you're only talking to each other. So a lot of people, they go to all these networking events and they're always thinking about who's the next person that you could talk to. And you're kind of, your eyes are gazing over to that person because you really want to talk to that person. But just focus on the person. Focus on that person, because that's the relationship that you're building today. And that's why it's so important.
Yeah, and speaking of that, people pick up on it.
Yeah.
When you're not focused. The networking meeting, I find, is obvious that if you're looking over there,
yeah,
usually they'll pick up the vibe. But
yeah, you see it and you remember. That's the thing. Like I was at a trade show and the person kind of like was talking to me, and then they wanted to talk, they walked over to someone else, and then every time I look at that person's business card, I think about that example. And it was just like a split-second decision for that person, but it's the relationship. I always think about that person and think about that. So that's how impactful that impression is when you're making it with somebody.
So along the same lines, integrating the advice, I think that sounds straightforward, but if you have problems integrating it because you don't know how to, or maybe there's a lot of discipline involved in it, is that just a matter of building the habits, sticking with it, or are there techniques to say, I know this works, but I have a hard time doing it because I'm not used to getting up at 5 a.m. to meditate every day, or I'm not used to running an hour every day because I resist it? Or is there some way to make it easier to follow through with what's being exchanged? It's
hard. I mean, that's like every New Year's Eve, everybody makes all these resolutions, and then 2 months down the road, a lot of resolutions have fallen off the plate, or you're not thinking about them. So keeping those goals is a definite skill set that you need to develop. So it's thinking about yourself. Like, what do you need to achieve those goals? What kind of incentive do you need to actually make sure that you stay focused on achieving those goals? So and I know for one of the things that I'm trying to achieve right now, I've set a timeline. So I know, so by this time, or this meeting that I have in 2 months, I have to work towards that goal until that meeting. So I know that every day it has to be that way, and that there's no ifs, ands, or buts, because I'm going to stay focused on achieving that goal. I don't know if there's an easy rule, but I know just thinking about working out and personal trainers and all that, or going to the gym, it's good to have a buddy, right? So if you're kind of touching base with somebody every day and saying, oh, this is how it's going, it could be a friend, it could be a neighbor, and that person's keeping you accountable. So that's a really good technique or strategy. For me, it's writing it down on my calendar so it pops up every morning for 21 days or until that goal is like integrated into my life. But what is it that works for you? Is it having a weekly treat, like going to your favorite restaurant on a Friday night because you've had a really successful week and you've made inroads to achieving that goal every single day? So think about what is it that you need to achieve that goal.
So what is it that works for you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a few minutes left. If you'd like to give people your information, contact information, well, the website's here, but an email or a phone number.
Sure.
If people want any further details.
Yeah, feel free to visit the website. So it's www.mentorcity.com. I could also be reached at info@mentorcity.com. Or my number is 647-983-6670. So I definitely encourage you to go on the website, search for a mentor, be a mentor, because you're definitely going to achieve a lot and grow from being a mentee and a mentor. And I look forward to hearing about all these stories and experiences and how this kind of relationship has changed your life and helped you achieve even greater things you may not even thought possible.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Joe. It's been a pleasure.
So that's our show for today. It's the Cube Talk Show, and the show actually has a new time. It broadcasts at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, nightly on thatchannel.com, and it's also available on my website, www.joeltheinvestor.ca, and I have a second website, www.joeltheinvestorgroup.com. And to contact me, my email address is joeltheinvestor.today@gmail.com. And thanks for watching, and have a great evening.